Some of you know that I am a big fan of the Premier League, which is soccer, football in the United Kingdom. Just love it. And each week they have a special time where they do some recaps of highlights of games that if you happen to miss them. And so that's what we're going to do for the book, Thy Will Be Done by Dr. Stephen Cherry. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the most recent reading. So for week 1, that would be reading number 6, and then we're going to go to 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. And so in the words of the great singer and fabulous theologian Cher, I'm going to turn back time. As you know, this past week's readings were about heaven. And next week, it's going to be about earth. Week 3 is going to be bread. You know that I like that a lot, and I'll have a lot to say about that. The week after that, week 4, is about forgiveness, something we all need. Week 5 is about temptation, something that we're all experts at. And then week 6 is going to be about the glory of God. So remember, as Dr. Cherry has written in the book, this book is an invitation to immerse yourself in the prayer that Jesus taught us. Thank you for joining this group. Thank you for taking time during Lent to get immersed in the Lord's Prayer. Now, these recaps are comprehensive, but they're not all-inclusive. And so I don't want you to skip the daily readings and just watch the recaps. I know you're not going to do that. So let's begin. Number 6, hallowed be thy name. Dr. Cherry on page 37 points out, when we say hallowed be thy name, we affirm both the reality of God's goodness and perfection and their claim on our allegiance. And as we do so, we allow ourselves to be drawn towards that complete holiness that is uniquely found in God. Day number 5, who art in heaven, says on page 31, it's vital to remember that God, while other to us, is not distant from us, but rather close. Day 4, the problem of patriarchy. Dr. Cherry writes on page 27, prayer may be the pursuit of purity and be addressed to the most perfect one, but it will always be using language that is impure and imperfect. And he goes on to write, words that are intended to be helpful and comforting will sometimes be experienced as hurtful and alienating. I think we've all probably experienced that at one time or another in our life. On page 25, Dr. Cherry asks this profound question. Is the Lord's Prayer toxic for those who have experienced from their own Father not support, love, care, and encouragement, but harshness, bullying, or abuse? Reading number 3, Our Father. On page 21, it reads, one of the most notable aspects of this prayer is that it is not written in the first person. It is not my Father who is prayed to, but our Father. Reading number 2, Motherly Father. Page 16, Dr. Cherry writes, when Jesus used the word Father as the mode of address with which to begin this prayer, he was shifting the focus of our relationship with God from one based on power and deference to one based on care and comfort. And then a little later on page 20 he writes, whatever we say, however, when we use the word Father, here we are implying mother and referring to the loving kindness of God. Reading number 1. The shape of prayer. On page 14, we find these words. The prayer begins with God's fatherhood and ends with God's glory. And in between, it is focused on 3 facets of human lived experience. 1, our needs in the present. 2, our relationship with what has gone wrong in the past. And 3, our fears for the future. And page 12 really kicks us off and sums it all up. 3 words. Begin with God. Begin with God. That's my prayer for all of us as we begin this study, this Lent 2021. So that's week 1. Stay tuned. Peace.